Hi everyone, this is Elcid 932 on YouTube. Thank you for joining me. This is Love is Blind Mexico, the reunion. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment because I am leaving a review on a translated, edited show. Double whammy. I read the English subtitles. My Spanish is only as high as high school Spanish, and I could get around town, but I needed the English subtitles for this, okay? Don't judge me too harshly. So, again, thank you for joining me, and let's get into it. So, I will say this the host and hostess, he's a comedian, she is a life coach, I do believe. They also brought on two additional hosts. I wasn't sure how I like this, wasn't sure. And please forgive me for the pronunciation of the names, please do. One was an internet personality called Pablo Chagra, and the other one was an actress called Cynthia Urias. Um, Pablo was hilarious. Cynthia had her jokes and jabs there too, but it wasn't a good addition. I definitely like the fact that he was a gossip, it seemed like a gossip columnist, internet personality. And even though she was an actress, she was an avid fan of the show. So she was kind of like, yeah, I watched the show and I got questions as the audience. So I like that perspective. US, pay attention. There are several things Mexico do in this that I wish we would adopt here for Our Love is Blind. All I got to say too is that they do something very different. They have a reunion circle, a platform that says Love is Blind Mexico Reunion, and you stand on it as a couple, and then production turns a light, red or green, to say if you are still together. Absolutely love it. Because Brazil, they have the picture frame and the hammer, and the lady gets to whack the picture frame if y'all are together or not. But I think it's so game show like that Mexico is like, and here we are. Are we together? Are we not? Light it up. I liked it. I have to say, I liked it. I'm sorry. So, um, Sylvia looked great in that silver dress. That's the one thing I'm going to say. They had them all walk out and say, hey, couples. All the ladies walked out. Then all the gentlemen walked out. And, y'all, the ladies are wearing heels. Why y'all send them to the furthest couch? Okay? That's a little rough. So, Sylvia looked great in that silver dress. Sylvia, you looked great. Letty and Saul were in the audience. Gerardo was there. No Fernanda, but Maffa was there. It's like, ooh, y'all being messy already. And Fernando and Karen, are they still married? So we walk up to the reunion circle. They come from each couch and they stand in there, and it's like, dun, 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 dun. It turns green. But here's the thing. They were fooling us because they weren't wearing rings. I was like, they ain't together? They're not wearing rings. But then the light turned green. They are actually married together and doing quite well. They bought an apartment together. They went into business together, and that's been doing really well. So they put, they put up a video of her being sick and saying, oh, she could be, expecting, but it turns out to be the wine. And I'm like, of course it's the wine. It's too soon. Love is Blind is barely a month. So Fernando said there's no rush in having kids. They already have Emmy, which is Karen's daughter. And he's still wearing the bracelet that Emmy gave him their first meeting. The host said, has he made up with his dad? Because Fernando had a tumultuous relationship with his dad. And he said they had an argument, but his dad will do anything for him, and they're now on great terms, which is really, really good. Karen addresses the barbecue outburst, because remember, Karen went off at the barbecue. Karen said that she had the outburst at the barbecue because she is a straight shooter. Remember at the barbecue outburst, she was angry that Arias or Iris, as I say, I'm not proficient in saying it correctly. Please forgive me. And Renee. So the host asks, why were you so angry, at the situation? And Karen says, um, I don't like to talk behind anyone's back. I'm a straight shooter. But she blames the wine. We know you were intoxicated, Karen. And what did it say? A drunk tongue speaks sober thoughts. So, she said, Iris should have been honest and told her that she was going to fight for Fernando. And Iris is like, I never proposed to Fernando. I'm sorry. I don't know where you heard that from, but I didn't. They showed that she hugged Karen and spoke to her, or she also said she hugged Karen, spoke to her after the breakup with Fernando. So Karen knew she wasn't with Fernando. And she believes there's a misunderstanding and miscommunication, and there has never been any bad intentions with Karen, you know. So the host said, why was Karen so mad then? So Iris says, Fernando gave her misinformation. So the host goes and play the videotape, and you see where Karen and Iris have a talk. And Iris tells, another lady, she'll make her move and let her connection decide. So the video shows that, Iris and Karen is like, oh, whoever he chooses, that's fine. Whoever it is, bygones are bygones. So then Iris gives Fernando the gifts, which one is a book, and she wants to share adventures with him and fill up the book. Fernando says no to continuing with her, and this is where Iris asks, well, what about Renee? What are your thoughts on him? The host is like, what? And I'm saying host is one of the four hosts, either the actress, the internet celebrity, or the main host. But I'm just saying host because I can't keep up with it. So it's four hosts, about as much as the cast. So the host is like, how quickly you move on, Iris. She's like, you didn't see where Fernando said they can fill the book up as friends, and they ended amicably. And the host believes that Iris wanted to continue with Fernando. I believe the same thing. Iris says that her scenes with Fernando came before he proposed to Karen, and production switched it to make it look like Karen was engaged to Fernando and Iris was trying to sneak in and take Fernando away. We believe that could be a possibility. So the host asked Fernando, was it love in the pods? And Fernando's like, we were exploring connections. Fernando, you could be a politician. We were exploring connections in the pods. Although it was not an all-out proposal, saying things like, I found what I was looking for in you, he may have misinterpreted it. Fernando, you may. It sounded like you did. A whole lot of misinterpretation going on, and y'all are speaking the same language. I'm here getting the English translation, and I ain't misunderstanding. Anyway, he said he misinterpreted it, and he believes it was a proposal. And like Karen said, if Iris was, only more clear, I'm looking at him like, Fernando, you just saying that because you don't want to hear it from Karen on the way home. So you want to co-sign what she was saying, that Iris wasn't very clear. Whatever. The host says that, she said that. When she said, I'm laying my cards on the table, she's basically being very clear. So the host at the end asks about Renee and said, Renee, how do you feel? Renee is like, everyone has their story. And he likes the one he had with her, and it was her choice. The host said, you can't lie when you lay your heart out there, and she understands Iris's point of view. I understand it too. A lot of misunderstanding for Iris, okay? Iris said this is where she falls in love so hard, she cries, it hurts, and then she moves on. And she moved on to Renee. And her process is not normal, but she does not regret it. So we go to Rocio. Remember, She was the one who went back to Fernando and said Iris was telling the girls that you proposed, that y'all is getting married. She was considered the messy one. So they were playing the clips of Iris saying, "I'm getting married," and how the ladies in the pod responded. So I'm sorry, but Rocio, I think your response to the hostess was theatrical. It was, oh, oh, I was so hurt. I understand you could have been hurt, but how it was translated across the screen, it looked all made up. She said, she assumed that I'm getting married was because there was a proposal, or at least they agreed to get married. She said, so she went to Fernando since they had a connection and she wanted to put her cards on the table. She felt judged and excluded and uncomfortable with the girls, and it was awful. The host asked Iris, why did you roll your eyes when Rocio was talking? Because Iris was like, yeah, whatever. Because she and Iris walked into the pods as friends, but I don't know now. I was like, nothing. She understands feeling awful when you make a mistake. It's like, Iris, that's the lawyer in you coming out. The host is like, do you buy her tears? And Iris is like, not my place to judge. Not my place to judge her a year later. It's like, ooh, that sounded like a judgment though, Iris. It's like, girl, it's been a year and you sniffling? You still sniffling? It's been a year. Get over it. I was like, burn. Iris was burning her by being polite. So Francesca apologizes for judging and excluding her, meaning Rocio. And Sylvia said she apologized to Rocio the very next day because they shouldn't be so invested in other people's journey. And we're going to put a pin in this for Francesca, because Francesca show us little mean girls and then a big mean girl stuff with Willie. And we'll see it later, where else Francesca was mean to the other lady. So we have Sylvia and Chema. Let's go to the reunion circle. I really like this reunion circle. I'm sorry. Mexico, you did that wonderfully. The color lights up because remember, Chema and Sylvia, they ran away from the altar into the gardens. The reunion circle turned red, meaning they are not together. Sylvia said there are two free-spirited people who wanted to do it their own way outside the experiment. And Chema says she's wonderful and there's genuine love there. Sylvia said they kind of stretched themselves too thin, and, Chema has a lot of things to fix, and she felt like she was not needed and not invited in. He said, we tried, but, there's a lot he has to fix, and he could not give her the attention she deserved. He apologized for breaking her heart on her birthday. Apparently, y'all, a whole lot more happened between Chema and Sylvia about how he spoke about her at the birthday. He has learned not to just speak what he thinks. He didn't like her dress. We didn't hear that. And wanted to say that and could not help it. He didn't like her eyelashes. We didn't hear that. He didn't tell her these things in a decent, well-mannered way, the way his parents taught him. The host said, or you could say nothing. How about that? Say nothing. Sylvia said, yeah, because it's your partner and it's their birthday. He said, yeah, he was a dumb fool. And she said she's accepted his apology. They're good friends now, but it was very hurtful on her birthday. Host asked Chema if he's dating. He's like, no, he's taking the year. He wants to take the year to focus on his daughter. And they're like, well, if you want to spend time with your daughter, you shouldn't have done this experiment. Okay. Chema said he wanted to grow as a person and see if it was real, see what it was like, and agreed it was very little time to know each other. Sylvia said all of them went in there, and no one should go there unless they're going hoping to get married. She's not invalidating his feelings, but whenever he was asked, he said he wanted to challenge himself. And she's like, am I a challenge? He's like, no. It's not about falling in love. It's all about falling in love in another type of way, to see if indeed he was a super visual person. She's like, I like how I look. He's like, you're a beautiful person. And I'm like, why do I think he's talking about inner beauty? Not necessarily. You he likes the outer package. We listening, Chema. And Chema looks scared. I have to say, Chema looked like he was coming for a roasting. And I wonder how much we didn't see. The host says everyone was skeptical about Chema, like in Sylvia, but he's like, Sylvia looked tasty. Is the young man who is the social media influencer. He's like, Sylvia looked tasty. It was the way he said it. I was like, "Ooh, child." She does though. I already said, and I forgot he said tasty. I said Sylvia. Sylvia was the best dress for me out of the lot, but that's just my preference. Fernando, the host asked Fernando, "What do you say? Why did you say that Chema didn't like Sylvie?" And Fernando from across the way says, when the men were talking to Chema, they saw they had a great connection, but Chema was talking about physical stuff. And the host asked Sylvie, how do you feel? She's like, and she goes into her soliloquy that was well said. She said, as a society, we talk about bodies, so much that it isn't right. Women need to empower themselves. All opinions don't belong to you, so don't buy them. Look in the mirror, value yourself, love yourself. That's all that matters. Wonderful, Sylvia. The hostess talks to Alejandra. She's like, she had a connection with Chema, but it was a fantasy made in the pods. And I'm like, Chema looked like he came to get himself roasted, because I'm sure there's a lot of footage. There has to be footage of Chema telling Sylvie he don't like the dress, the eyelashes, all that stuff we don't get to see. But Chema was not looking comfortable. So Alejandra said it never, she never came to fight with the other ladies in the pods, because the host was like, it seemed kind of, camaraderie. She's like, it was never anything malicious or anything in the pods with the women. So in the next couple, they bring to the reunion circle is Iris and Renee. I'm sorry. The host was like, please come to the reunion circle. And then the lights turned and the platform lit up. So remember, Renee said, let's try this outside of the pods. And she's like, yes, I think we can make it. And the circle, red means they're not together. Green means they are. The color turned red. The host was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And they showed this lovely montage of them, and their time traveling and being together away from the pods after the experiment. Renee says distance magnifies everything, including fights. They have a strong connection as friends. They're sitting there on the couch holding hands. I mean, they're still strongly connected. So Iris says the distance complicated things. And the host is like, yeah, the sisters probably influenced Renee. And he's like, no. And, the host asks Iris, how does it feel facing off against sisters who are protecting their brother? And Iris, she has her brother and she has two other sisters as well. So she says, no, they were getting to know her. They are getting to know her. And Renee was telling them everything. Renee, I know your sisters are probably your best friend, but in a relationship, you can't tell them everything. She said it hurts because she wanted to be part of their family. She understood because she protects her brother too. So the host said in the reveal, it looked like Iris didn't like how Renee looked. Remember, y'all, we got to go all the way back. When the reveal happened, she accepted the ring, everything. By the time she went back to confessional, she was like, oh, golly, no. And everybody assumed that she didn't like how Renee looked. It was about his looks, but it was something else about his looks. Something that, we're going to discuss. She's like, everybody's saying we didn't kiss, but we kissed and it was not shown. And she asked for it not to be shown, is what I'm guessing based on what she said. So they're like, oh, did you kiss with passion? She says yes. Renee says no. And then like joking. Renee said she told him she's a conservative girl and he wanted to respect that. And she said, I did not want to be vulgar. Iris, is that shade? Are you shading Karen? Because we always like Karen climbed Fernando when they met. She climbed that man. So is this a shade to all the people who climbed their person? Which was really only Karen that got real hot and heavy. Saul tried to get hot and heavy with Letty, but I was like, ooh, the shade. She's coming after Karen subtly. This was the second time she came after Karen in a subtle way. So Iris goes on to reveal that, remember, she said her issue with alcohol is because someone in her past abused alcohol, and as such, they abused her as well. I would say trigger warning here. I'm not going to go into it. She did not go into it, but that was just a mention of it. But she said Renee looked a lot like and had the physical traits and looks of the person who did this to her. And that included his piercings. So all of that came flooded back to her. She was afraid. She knew it was not Renee, but all of her past traumas came flooding back. She later on told Renee she did not want to end it like that on the show, letting people think that it was all about his appearance. But she also knows she connected with him in the pods. So she knew it was not him. He was a different person. She's like, she was not justified in what she said. She was just saying where it came from. And she did apologize to Renee face to face and away from the show. But it's important to apologize at the place where she hurt him, which was on the show. It wasn't right, but it came from a place of fear and hurt. And she didn't want to share that on the reveal at the show. Let's just say Karen and Fernando did not look convinced. When the camera panned over to them, Karen looking down, fixing her dress. Fernando was like, yeah, whatever. I was like, ooh, child. The host is then saying, ooh, Gerardo still know Fernanda? Where Fernanda at? I was like, we moved on. They that was after they said, thank you for sharing, your story. Glad that the sisters, Renee's sisters, and you are mending things, da. And then they're like, no Fernanda? Anybody see Fernanda? That's when I knew something was up. Saul and Letty. Letty is wearing, they're in the audience, and the hostess, which is the wife of the main host, is like, Letty, you're wearing your ring. And she's like, yeah, the experiment changed her life, and it reminds her to be open to love. And she wears it on her index finger. And Saul said the experience touched him a lot, and he apologizes for his behavior at the reveal and asks for forgiveness because he got swept up in his emotions. Now, if you remember, when the reveal happened, Saul was full on Letty in a makeout session on the couch. Okay? We were like, ooh, calm down, Saul. So Letty says she accepts his apology, and then she read him through. She said her boundaries were set before the reveal. That is what I said in the recap. I said Letty needs to be clear with Saul and tell him her boundaries. And apparently we didn't get to see that. Production kept it from us. But she said it was set before the reveal, she told him. And he didn't respect her boundaries. He kept breaking her boundaries outside the pod until it got too hard to love him. That I can understand. Totally understand. It hurt her when he told Gerardo that she was teasing him, and she wasn't. She mentions his daughter to get him to stop, but he acted like she initiated the affection. Production, you got that to answer for. Said he was having jealous tantrums daily, and her boundaries were constantly being stepped on, and it made her, the way he was presenting her, it made her out to be the bad guy. Now, Saul took full responsibility. He didn't use the right words. His emotions were very strong. He says he needed to feel validated and wanted and could not control himself in that rush of emotions, and he was wrong. He wanted to create a safe space of love and respect for her, but he fell short of that. Now, let me pause here. Here's why I truly appreciate Saul. And I felt throughout, even with the live with Ari, I felt like Saul was being misunderstood. Ari's like, oh, he pushing. And I didn't see any evidence of that. So now I'm going to agree. Saul, as she said, was pushing boundaries, as he said. But here's where I like Saul. Saul was wrong, all the way wrong. And Saul has since come forward, and Saul, how can I say it? I love when someone can clearly state what they're apologizing for. Not say, if I made you feel bad, if I crossed your boundaries. I don't like that. But Saul came through and he took responsibility. I didn't say the right words. I was, overly too strong in emotions. I got swept away. I'm validating your feelings and I'm saying exactly what I did wrong to make you feel this way. I love when people can list out exactly what they're apologizing for. Not that if you felt bad, Letty, but this is what I did. I heard you, I understand you, and I'm apologizing for each and every one, each and every part of it that I did. Then we move on to William Francesca, but I don't know if Letty totally believes him, but that's just my side note. I don't know if Letty totally believes him. But for Willie and Francesca, they show clips of Gerardo and Willie talking about how Francesca wants to be a stay-at-home wife. The host is like, yeah, Francesca, you said a wife multiplies, but it looks like you wanted to multiply his debts. I was like, oh my God. It looked like you just wanted to spend, and multiply the amount of spending he was going to do. I was like, ooh, they gave it to her good. Fernanda said she grew up where her dad provided everything for the family, but she loves to work or she'll be bored. Host is like, was it a misunderstanding? Was he misleading? And Willie's like, her lifestyle is different than him. She's like, oh, privileged and blessed? Francesca, you're giving mean girl vibes. You're giving mean girl. Again, you're giving mean girl. When he said our lifestyles are different, you didn't have to say privileged and blessed. Because then you're saying he was not privileged, and you're trying to say he's not blessed. He said he was blessed by his parents, and his mom was a superwoman. She worked and was there for him and his siblings. There's no one way to handle finances, but he experienced where both parents were working, and that's what he wanted in a relationship. She wanted something different. He said neither are wrong, it's just a different point of view, which is correct. So the host is like, so Francesca, you didn't find love, but you gained a friend, huh, Fernanda? Then we see Fernanda is hanging out behind the shadow doors. The host is like, Fernanda was not at the birthday party either, but Francesca came up to Maffa because it was a possible steal your man moment. I'm like, really? Is it a steal your man moment? They show clips of the birthday party where Francesca was being a mean girl. Remember, she was like, oh, sing your song that you sang for Gerardo at the pods, Maffa. You like the limelight. Da, da, da. And I was like, oh, golly. They showed mean girl energy again. But Maffa said, Francesca is right. I can be a bee at times. This is Maffa's words. She's like, I get where she's coming from. I'll just be myself, but I love the spotlight and it's okay. So the host said there are rumors of Gerardo and Maffa going out after the experiment. So Gerardo's like, yeah, we went out for drinks. We went out for a while. We chatted and messaged. An attempt was made. Gerardo, that may be the title of your next song. An attempt was made. So the host is like, Gerardo, you look nervous. What happened with Maffa? And he's like, this happened. And he kissed her. And the host is like, how long after the experiment did this happen? I was like, it was intense in the pods, but she was happy for him that he was with Fernanda. It's like they met up again because of the death of a close friend, and they met at the wake. Maffa invited him out for drinks, and they started texting 24/7, and it was awesome. He came to Mexico City to visit her. The host said, are y'all still together? They're like, let's go to the reunion circle. He's like, but wait a minute, we weren't prepared for reunion circle for y'all. So the host says, kiss if y'all are together, hug if not. They hugged. And while they're hugging, they're like, okay, da da da. It's like, oh, we have a guest. We have a guest. Fernanda walks out with her hand on her hip and walks out. Hola! With a whole bunch of attitude. So the host asked Fernanda, what do you think of Gerardo and Maffa? And she's like, it's his life. I lived it. I slept with him. It was a drag. I'm like, dag, all this attitude. The host is like, you didn't know they went out or saw the kiss? Fernanda's like, let them kiss. And the host says, go to the circle. Of course we know they ain't together. But here's my thing. I don't like the heat that Fernanda came with. Because we saw in that last episode they were together, she threw a blanket over the camera to hide what she was doing. And we heard stuff being thrown, we heard sounds of what sounded like things thrown, tossed, hit, da-da-da, all over the room. Then we actually saw her on camera throwing clothes on the floor in the living room. We saw her outburst. So this attitude for Gerardo, when she's the one that got packed up her stuff nicely, packed her bag, packed her dog, and walked out, but she wants to come in with some attitude. Again, Fernanda, I'm looking at you sideways because if you and Francesca are great friends, it's screaming mean girl energy. So they went to the circle. They totally went to the circle. So I didn't know where Fernanda's coming up with all this attitude. So on the way to the circle, go to reunion circle, shady hosts, we know they ain't together. Gerardo, put his hand to help her down a couple stairs, and she just walked by him. Oh. And you could see the attitude. The host says, any contact after y'all ended? He's like, no, none. Host is like, no point to the circle. Then why did you make them go there? But tell each other what you want to say. Fernanda's like, I had a lot of love to give you, but there are things she didn't understand. She has questions like whenever the cameras were around, he liked to sing in the pods, the proposal, Tulum, it's like he was showcasing his music and she felt deceived. Jordan said, you always knew I was pursuing a music career. It's nothing new to you. But she tried to interrupt him and he's like, wait a minute, can I speak? He basically was acting like, I did not interrupt you. Please don't interrupt me. So he says, he didn't use the show to pursue a music career because he wasn't singing everywhere. If he was doing that, he would have done it at Sylvia's birthday. He would have done it other places too. So she said she was not concerned. She was not considered in many situations as relates to intercourse and even her dog. And she felt frustrated and saw how he took his friends into consideration. She didn't feel he was sincere and wanted to get married. And that's why she changed the question to ask him if he loved her enough to get married. And he said no. He's like, exactly. I wasn't in love enough to get married to you on Monday morning. So these weddings happening on a Monday, there ain't much wedding guests that could afford to take time off for a Monday. I'm sure them venues are expensive on the weekend. Okay. So she said 3 days before the wedding, you made me feel so bad. I had to ask that before the wedding. Keep in mind, they're still standing facing each other at this reunion circle. And I'm like, why did y'all put this together like this? She could jump and attack this man, and there is no way anyone can get there ahead of time. Or, anything could happen. He says, don't you think that's a normal question for this experiment? You're going to keep on asking your person, are you going to say yes? Are you in love enough for, the altar? And I certainly think that you're always doing check-ins. You're always going to be like, are we doing this for real? Gerardo said, we came to see if we could find love this way. He's like, I never disrespected you. I never deceived you. If you felt deceived, I apologize and I validate your feelings. I didn't come here to deceive. I came here like you to find love. Now, Gerardo, as I just said, Saul gave a great apology, stating exactly what he's apologizing for. But the whole thing of if you felt deceived, that wasn't a good apology. I understand what you meant, but that was not in my house. I would have said, since you felt deceived, I apologize. That was not my intention. I think I have a problem with the word if in an apology. So the host thanked them for sharing their feelings. It was an experiment and everyone experiences it differently. It says relationships are complicated. Hope you learn from it, even if it's uncomfortable and painful. Leave it in the past and find love elsewhere. And thanks them for being a part of the show. So the last one we get to is Willie and Francesca. Another hot couple. So she brought back the necklace that he gave her. He gave her a cedar necklace that he said was a family heirloom, a family symbol. And he wants her to have it. He wants her to keep it. She comes from her couch, walks over to him to hand him that item. She says no. He said, keep it. She says, no, I don't want to keep it. So she puts it on the floor by his feet. And I was like, girl, at least you didn't throw it. Because that was the next thing. I was like, she going to throw it on the couch behind him. Because if you brought that and you walk all the way over across the stage, you mean business. She put it on the floor in front of him. He said when speaking to her, what resonated with him was she also had Lebanese heritage through her dad, he says. She just looks at him like this, in a condescending manner. Again, mean girl energy. Francesca, I don't think we forgot. You done cussed him out and tell him leave. That's all he could do when you were drunk at the apartment. So she says, when he takes a breath, do you know what the cedar tree means? And he says, no. And I'm like, Willie, it's a family heirloom. You got to know what it means, or at least what it means for your family. She's like, well, it's for temperance, strength, and resilience. So you needed more. I told you at the wedding, I don't want it. Francesca, I see you tip over from love to, I don't want to say hate because I don't think she hates him, love to dislike real quick. Then she chastises him again and says, you shouldn't leave a woman with something in her hands, meaning when she was trying to give him the necklace, you shouldn't have just left her there with her hand out, with the box in her hand, and she had to put it by his feet. And he says, no, you shouldn't give a gift back when it's given. And I'm like, is she trying to shade his manners? Is she? And put it in the chat for me. Because again, I don't know the whole cultural significance and stuff in Mexico. But when she says that, and then he says you shouldn't give a gift back when it's given, I'm like, is she trying to shame his manners and say he's of a lower class than her? Because that's what it resonated for me. So say it in the comment for me, because I thought it was a little distasteful. You know, there was nothing left to say. You left it at his feet. You could have walked back and taken your seat and looked lovely. So the host says the experiment works. You have to be true to yourself and your feelings. They show clips of Karen and Fernando, the only couple to get married and be still together. And the host asks if love is blind. Ask them, Fernando and Karen, is love blind? They say completely, absolutely. The hostess, who's the actress, says to everyone who was a part of the cast, they were so brave to put themselves forward and to trust the process. And that is the end of the reunion of Love is Blind Mexico Season 1. Tell me what you think. This was quick for me. This is less than an hour, but it was only one episode. So if you did enjoy this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave a comment. What were your thoughts? I love the come to the circle and the light go on and off. I like you're able to confront, but the whole Fernanda, where are you? I didn't like that. She should have been out there like everybody else. Why did she get special treatment? Okay. But again, thank you so much. And we will continue to recap Love is Blind. And we'll see if Mexico gets a second season. I think they should. I think they should. Let me know your thoughts. See you in the next one.